A devastating firestorm, triggered by asteroid impacts, engulfs the Earth. The storm moves with terrifying speed, obliterating entire nations in less than a minute. Originating in the North Atlantic, the cataclysm consumes countries one by one, leaving Australia as the final place untouched. The people of Australia are given a mere 12 hours before the firestorm arrives, and with no hope for survival, they are left with only enough time to fulfill their final wishes. In Australia, the story focuses on a young man named James and his wife Zoe. Fully aware of their impending doom, they share a few brief moments together. However, James chooses to leave Zoe behind to spend his remaining hours at a chaotic end-of-the-world party, driven by the desire to see his girlfriend, who is waiting for him there. Zoe wishes for James to stay with her by the beach, but she does not argue when he mentions his girlfriend, realizing that their imminent deaths render the betrayal meaningless. Before he walks out, Zoe reveals that she is pregnant. Although shocked by the revelation, James still gets into his car and drives away. As James travels, he drinks heavily to cope with the reality of the situation. The streets are filled with panic and lawlessness. People who understand the gravity of the situation are paralyzed by fear, while aggressive individuals roam freely, ignoring the law. Old grudges are settled through violence, and the bodies of abandoned children litter the ground. Desperate families beg for help as homes burn, and some parents choose to kill their own children and commit suicide rather than subject them to the final agony of the firestorm. James continues driving until his path is blocked by a vehicle. Before he can find an alternate route, a man climbs onto his car and holds a knife to his neck. James offers to give up his car in exchange for his safety, but the assailant forces him to keep driving. The man is tracking someone ahead, and once he spots his target, he exits the vehicle and brutally stabs him to death. Realizing the murderer will likely kill him next, James abandons the car and flees on foot, eventually hiding underneath another vehicle. While hiding, James witnesses a van pull up and two men drag a screaming young girl into a house to abuse her. James initially wants to steal their van and escape, but the girl's cries prevent him from leaving her behind. Grabbing a hammer from the van, he enters the house and kills the first assailant. The second attacker, a large man, overpowers James and attempts to suffocate him with a piece of wood. James manages to break free, strikes the man with the hammer, and rescues the terrified girl. The girl introduces herself as Rose. Although initially distrustful of James, she joins him in the van after he explains the danger of remaining there. Rose explains that she needs to get to her aunt's house, where her family agreed to gather so they could spend their final moments together. She reveals that their own vehicle ran out of fuel and she was kidnapped when her father went to find gasoline. Her father had instructed her to head to the aunt's house even if they became separated. James wants to help Rose but faces a dilemma. The aunt's house is on the opposite side of the city, and the van lacks the fuel required to drop her off and still allow him to reach his party. Hoping to find her father, James drives back to where their car broke down, but the father is nowhere to be found. Frustrated, James decides to take Rose to his sister's nearby home, promising she will be safe there with his three nieces. Upon arrival, they find the house unlocked and silent. James notices water dripping down the stairs, and when he investigates, he discovers that his sister and her husband have committed suicide after killing their three daughters and burying them outside. Devastated by the tragedy, James runs out of the house to take his sister's car. Rose follows him into the vehicle, and he drives away in silence. Along the road, James notices a police officer arriving at a library with his family. Hoping to leave Rose in safe hands, James takes her inside the building. However, he discovers that the officer has brought his family there to end their lives. The officer asks James to kill them, but James refuses. The officer then asks James to state that he forgives him for what he is about to do. After James complies and exits the building with Rose, the officer kills his family and himself. Left with no other options, James takes Rose to the gated party hosted by his friend. The atmosphere inside is chaotic, with people dancing frantically and abusing drugs to forget their impending deaths, resulting in numerous fatal overdoses. Frightened by the scene, Rose holds James's hand tightly, who appears to have lost her own child and is suffering a mental break, approaches Rose and addresses her by a different name. James intervenes to protect Rose and moves further into the venue, where he finds his girlfriend in a swimming pool. James's girlfriend attempts to initiate romance, but James is too depressed by the horrors and the death of his sister to participate. When he tries to talk about his grief, his girlfriend dismisses his feelings, stating she does not want to hear sad things in her final moments. This cold rejection makes James realize how deeply he must have hurt Zoe when he ignored her pregnancy announcement. His girlfriend then leads him into an underground bunker stocked with a year's supply of food and provisions, falsely believing they can survive the apocalypse there. When James explains that the firestorm will destroy the bunker and kill them anyway, she panics. Her brother arrives and reveals he fabricated the survival story to keep his sister calm. Angry that James ruined the illusion, the brother attacks him. James flees outside to find Rose, who is vomiting because Sarah drugged her. As James tries to carry Rose away, Sarah tries to stop them, and his friend confronts him with a gun. Before the friend can shoot, James's girlfriend takes the weapon and fires. The shot kills Sarah instead of James. The girlfriend then tells James to leave and protect the little girl. James carries Rose forward on foot until he finds an abandoned taxi. He drives Rose to his mother's house first. His mother is comforted by his visit and commends him for helping the young girl. James lies to his mother about his sister's fate to spare her feelings. Finally, James takes Rose to her aunt's property, but the house is deserted. In the nearby woods, James discovers a collection of bodies, including Rose's father. Unable to break the news gently, he informs Rose of the discovery. Distraught and in denial, Rose demands to see him, prompting James to wrap the father's body in a cloth and bring it to her. Rose weeps over her father, vowing to stay by his side as promised. Rose's devotion to her father reminds James of Zoe's desire to be with him. Realizing his profound error, James leaves Rose with her father and drives back to his wife. Though Zoe is initially angry, James manages to comfort her and earn her forgiveness. As they stand together, the firestorm arrives and consumes them instantly, ending their lives as the story concludes.